This week we continue to explore the Indian community in Barbados. We will focus on its consolidation and expansion. This includes places of residence, newer business ventures, religious practices, culinary delights, and involvement in sports representing Barbados on various platforms. Welcome, I'm Sherwood McCaskey. My community begins right now.
So in the 80s, you would have had a consolidation of the community in terms of its institutions and its settling down. So by the 80s, you would have had, 50 years or more of East Indian presence in Barbados, more than that perhaps. And among the different groups of the East Indians, which was the Hindus, the Sindhis, the Muslims, and the South Indians as well, you would have found that they would have been setting the foundations a lot stronger. So, for example, the two mosques in Bridgetown, which would have been established in the 50s, by the 80s now they were expanding. They were reshaping and rebuilding, making it bigger, making it a lot more modern. Facilities were being built upon. And similarly with the other communities, they would have been setting up the Hindu temple, for example, in some places would have come into being. The younger generation now who would be fully Barbadian, for example, I was born in the 60s, by the 80s I'm a young man, I'm getting an education. You see a lot more going to University of the West Indies, for example, a lot more going to other universities as well. Coming back as professionals in different fields. You saw doctors from among the local Gujarati community now evolving, now emerging. You saw lawyers as well starting to come forward. So you're seeing a whole shift away from the traditional way of being in retail, although that still exists. But you saw now other younger generation going into other professional fields and so on. We would have started out in Bridgetown, in and around Bridgetown. And as the community grew, as persons got a little more wealth, they then looked to buy homes on the suburbs first and foremost. So you saw in the 80s, you saw a move from inner Bridgetown to the suburbs of Bridgetown, primarily in the Belleville area. So in the 80s, you saw a number of persons of the East Indian Muslim community, as well as Sindhis as well, buying homes within the Belleville area, so in the avenues of Belleville, because Belleville was now becoming more commercialized, but it also had a number of homes that were being sold. So they started to move into the Bellevilles.
So my uncle, my dad's brother, was married to one of the Thani daughters, Dada Dia's daughter. And he came, I guess, back in the 70s. And back in 1980, he invited my dad to come over. My dad was an engineer. My uncle had a manufacturing plant making plastic bags. So he came over to help him, and then he came in January, and then September we came in 1980, yeah. At the age of 9, grew up in the Belleville area, and remember Belleville with all the long trees and very colonial look, and riding up and down bicycle, playing cricket on the street. And Belleville had a very peculiar, they had a lot of parrots there. I remember that in the evening you would actually hear a lot of the parrots when you go outside and see them on the lines. And that's one thing that was very peculiar about Belleville. I noticed that. I lived there, and that was a good place to grow up. I enjoyed that. Some of my other friends used to live in Belleville, 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue. So we would ride across to the avenues, right up to Belmont Road, George Street. So all those areas would be areas that we would go riding in, and then go into other avenues to play cricket with the other folks in there. Yeah. St. Gabriel's was primary school, and I was there for about a year and a half. It was different because a lot of my English was learnt when I arrived in Barbados. So that was a challenge to be learning English, reading it, and trying to understand it at the same time. So that was a challenge in the beginning. And then did 11 plus, and I did my secondary education at Presentation College. So taking the Sargent Street bus, heading up to St. John, and that was quite an experience. Yeah, that was a good school, Presentation College. Well, it was getting to experience two different Barbados every day, you know. So the country life in St. John is completely different. You know, the walking to the shop and all that in country is different. Walking up to the village, you know, that was a completely different experience, and I kind of liked it. And then coming back to the city, kind of like that too. You know, you're back, and then you kind of look forward to going up there again. And so that's why I became really fond of Presentation College, and became very close to my heart with education-wise, but also where it was in the surroundings and whatnot. Yeah. Primary school, St. Gabriel's was a really good school. I remember that. I mean, the education system in Barbados is fantastic. All of what I have, and it's all thanks to the education system here. So St. Gabriel's was really good. I was only a year and some. And then Presentation College was a really good experience, being up there for 6 years. The brothers were really good at, carrying out the syllabus. I was not really a good boy. I was a bad boy. One of the bad boys thing, but hey, everybody can be good. And but I was good at studying. I was bad in conduct, but good at studying. But it was good memories. I love St. John, and I love going up there and doing cross country and playing tennis and for the school, and playing cricket for the school.
And over the past 4 years of producing My Community series, we have encountered many individuals who express their love for the parish of St. John. Now, the arrival of East Indians here in Barbados introduced different religious practices unfamiliar to the general population. However, reflecting the tolerant nature that characterizes Barbadian society, the East Indians have been able to practice their religion in peace.
Well, religion, Hindu religion is pretty vast. And because India has so many diverse culture, so much different type of groups, but they still fall under Hindu. Some may pray to Lord Rama, some may pray to Lord Krishna, so they become a different type of set. So religion, to me, Hinduism, what is Hinduism? Hindu is a person who stays away from conflict. It is ingrained in us from the very beginning. So we try every way and mean to avoid confrontation and to build bridges so that we can, come closer together where we can formulate a plan of action together, so more or less. So that, having understood that, it was easy for us then to embrace all other religions because there's no conflict. We understand our right to practice our religion the way we feel, and we also respect the right of your religion to practice the way you want to preach. That's the way you have chosen, that's fine. Religion is one thing that we do not pick, we are born into. Right? You're born into a family, religion is there, you follow. And that's how you grow. If in the future you see something you don't like, then you diversify, right? Spirituality is ingrained in you. It's your innate. Being good, being loving, being kind, it's a talent that is in us. That's what defines us. So when it comes to religion, I prefer to call myself spiritual. Because religion sometimes has that preset notion, right? And to follow that. Spirituality is expansive. I could be a good Christian, I could be a good Hindu, could be a good Muslim. but that good is the common factor. So that supersedes all religion.
So we're traditional Hindus, brought up in a very East Indian way in a very West Indian environment. So trying to balance two cultures. So our parents would speak to us in Hindi at home, which was fantastic because we still remember and know how to speak Hindi. And we would do all the traditional East Indian stuff. We would celebrate Diwali, where that was like our Christmas. We would clean the house and get painted and do all that stuff and clean the shop and come down and do puja in the store and, you know, do Holi and keep vegetarian on Tuesdays. And so try to follow a lot of our culture, traditions and stuff like that. Yeah.
For Hindus in Barbados, to identify to a structure, I will say the Hindu temple, which came about, I guess, maybe about 15, 20 years back. One of the business people who had this property, he had this building X put aside, and there was a lot of need, a lot of inquiry for a neutral place of worship. So they decided, okay, to approach this gentleman, and he wholeheartedly gave that side of his property for a Hindu temple. And with all the rituals that are needed to establish a temple was done. You know, priests and pandits were brought in from overseas, and whatever ritualistic needs were needed to be done. Because in our religion, we believe temple to be not only a place of worship, but place of rejuvenation. Because as I have been explained, temples are not a place for going to do prayers and this and that. That is given. The reason the temple is there to rejuvenate, re-energize you. Why? Because they put life energy into the statue before they establish the statue. With all the prayers, the Vedic chants, whatever they do, whatever they put under the statue, makes the entity, the statue, alive. So that is sending out that vibration. So when you go in a temple, if you are agitated mind and you sit down there quietly for 5-10 minutes, you start to calm down because that energy flows to you. So you re-energize yourself, you know, rejuvenate, recharge your batteries, come out again, carry out your whatever you have to do. Well, the major Hindu calendar celebrations are basically Holi, Diwali, Navrats. Those are the 9 days of worship for the Mother Durga. And then many more small ones that fall into place for a practicing temple, right? But the major ones are basically Holi and Diwali.
Diwali is the day of peace, where light, you know, overcome darkness. In other words, good overcome evil, and so they fast and they also celebrate those days. There are many South Indians in Barbados who are also Christian too. So among the East Indian population in Barbados, there are the Muslims and there are the Hindus, and there are also those who follow Sai Baba. It's a saint that they consider to be one of the reincarnation of God.
Regards to Diwali, mostly everybody knows it was the return of Lord Rama from exile into the forest after 14 years, that he came back victorious, having fought the demon Ravan, and who had abducted his wife to Lanka and bringing her back home as a victorious king. So that's the basic connotation behind Diwali.
And then the South Indians, many of them are also Christian too, so they observe the Christian holidays of Christmas and Easter and so on.
Grew up in Barbados celebrating Diwali, and celebrating Christmas as well, was like having 2 different Christmases. So it was really cool. Diwali as a child, I remember our parents used to allow us to stay home that day. So I used to really look forward to it. It's like no school, Diwali day. But that day was cleaning. So you get up in the morning and you make sure the bedroom is clean, everything is clean. So basically, Diwali is a time of cleaning and getting all the old out and bringing the new, right? And welcoming the goddess of wealth and health. So all of that needs to happen. And so it's a day of, as I said, a lot of family stuff, cleaning, wearing new clothes, getting ready for pujas, which is like a ceremony that we do, a service, cleaning the shop, and it's a day of all the lights would be cleaned, because in the evening, every light has to be on in the house. It has to be clean. And then we light up the diyas at the front. So my job was to get ready and make sure I put oil in the little diyas, put the little candle, the cotton pieces, and have them ready in a tray so that we go and put them out in the evening on the steps and light them up. And that's how Diwali was celebrated. And then we have a special dinner with the family together. And then we have a special service at night. We will all pray and feed each other mithai. And we always ate East Indian food at home. So my mom was an amazing cook. She used to make really, really good Indian food. But we used to love the chefette and the KFCs. You can't get away from that. We used to love that. And then obviously the macaroni pie and the traditional Bajan food, the flying fish and all that. My brother and I would really love that. And we were also involved with sports. So we had to be health conscious. We used to play badminton for Barbados, my brother and I, as juniors. And we traveled to Trinidad and Guyana and Jamaica, or at Carifta, playing badminton. And so you had to watch your diet and what you ate and stuff like that, although I was a little carried away. But the East Indian food was at home. And then when we go out and stuff, it was all the West Indian food.
Truly assimilating into a new society, it involves celebrating your own culture while embracing that of your adopted nation. Now, the first East Indians who arrived here came from an agrarian-based society in India. Interestingly enough, they did not continue that practice in Barbados. Instead, they became itinerant traders.
So you would have seen, as Sabir would have documented in his book Bengal to Barbados, and has he spoken of over the years, that the first known East Indian that came to Barbados actually started out by becoming an itinerant trader to earn his living. And that he was a Bengali. What prompted him to do that, we have not come to that conclusion yet, but we suspected that he saw it probably in other parts of the world, because you have to remember that these persons came from an agricultural background. They were accustomed to being in agriculture. What prompted them to come to Barbados and not get involved in agriculture, but get involved in this itinerant trade? So he started that. And subsequent Bengalis that came also got involved in that, and some of them tried their hands in retail stores as well, in Swan Street, Spicestone as well, I think is one area. When the Gujaratis came in 1929, the first batch that came, they also saw the Bengalis doing that type of trade, and they said, oh, it looks prosperous, let's do that as well. So they also got involved. So the first economic ventures was the itinerant trade, and that remains till today. You still have young people getting involved in the itinerant trade. It's not as widespread as before, but it is still there. It's still practiced. It's still a feature of Barbadian society. I saw something recently on a Facebook page, Beautiful Barbados, itinerant trader, part of Barbados legacy, right? So, and I think that is important. And it's important that we document that role of the itinerant trade in Barbados over the years, and I think we should do that. And so this started out that way. And it was a mutual relationship, a cooperative relationship between the business person and the client, or the person who is benefiting or buying goods. And they went all over Barbados, and they primarily interacted with Barbadians of lower income, the villages. And it was more than just economics. For many Barbadians, the East Indian trader who came into their homes was an advisor, was a counselor, was part of the household. They would attend the weddings of their kids. They would attend the funerals when they do that. So it became a lot more than just a businessman coming and selling something and you buying something. And as again I say, it should be documented. evolving from that was the retail business, naturally, where some persons opened stores. So there were stores that were open from as early as the 1930s, in Swan Street especially. So merchants, East Indian merchants got together. Some of them got together, pooled their resources, and opened stores and were selling from the stores. The Sindhis did the same thing, opened stores, bought goods from the Far East, relatives that they had there, and they imported goods. And so the retail store was the next evolution from itinerant trade to retail stores. Again, coming out of that was then you had a diversing into other types of retail businesses. There was one Gujarati that tried his hand in tourism related services, which was deep sea diving and things underwater. You know, he had a glass bottom boat, I believe, and he would carry people for deep sea diving and so on. So he entered into that fray. And then you see a diversity coming in over the years, the 90s, early 2000s, into car parts, into other activities. You also saw a rising of professionals, lawyers, doctors, engineers, accountants, teachers. That also started to evolve from the East Indian community.
As growing up, I was very passionate about music. I love like reggae and soca. And back in the 80s, growing up, there used to be a lot of Shabba Ranks and Buju Banton and Clement Irie and a lot of the old dub, which still plays in parties. So it was a very revolutionary time for music, and Bob Marley and stuff like that. So I was really, really into music. And so I told my dad that I wanted to get into music. And so it was back in 1989, we were sitting at a dinner table and we decided that, okay, because my dad used to run a store called Classics, which used to sell a lot of the gift items and picture frames and stuff like that. So we decided we were going to get into music, and sitting around the dinner table, we came up with the name Music and Echo. And that's where Music and Echo was born. So I said, well, I wanted to get educated more into production of music and engineering, because I really like to tweak audio and make it sound good, and how sound is made and how music is made and that kind of stuff. So I found a university in New York called Institute of Audio Research, and back in 1990, my dad took me there and enrolled me, and I did a course for 1 year, recording engineering production program. And 1991, I came back to Barbados, and Music and Echo was in Kay's house in Bridgetown. And so I would run Music and Echo during the day, and I had a recording studio in the back in the office, and I would record songs at night. So one of the first songs we did was with Peter Ram, Quicksand. If you don't remember that song, we're working as you get my paper pat wax quicksand down in your back. So the Panjwani brothers, myself and my brother, we recorded Peter Ram's Quicksand. That did well, and then then through the years we record an album called Beige Roots, which had Shaky Ranks and then Jerry and Natalie Burke, and then we recorded Alison Hines, Little Rick, Mighty Gabby came through there, and lots of different things, ads, commercials, and that studio business went on for 25 years. And ended up recording Rihanna, ended up recording Coldplay, so some big stuff happened, and I was very thankful because it was passion for me. It just kept growing it, and kept evolving to a better version of music industry. So Music and Echo's job was to try and bring high quality equipment so that everybody would try and, even if you're listening to stereo in your car, have good quality sound, whether in your home or you're producing music, you have access to good quality tools. And that was Music and Echo's job. And then my job as a producer is to try and build the music industry per se, because we really didn't have a music industry. It was once a year. Crop over was the only time music was made. Whereas Jamaica, they don't crop over. Jamaica, they're recording music every day. So if you see Jamaican artists are doing so much bigger than Bajan artists, that's one of the reasons, is that they're constantly recording. They're constantly putting out music. They're not waiting until May to put out a song and then wait till the next May again. But they're, so crop over is good and bad. I think it's good that it's fantastic for a festival. but it's bad for the music industry because people want to win something and they keep their music to try and win something for Barbados. Barbados is a special place, and I think the best thing about Barbados is the people. And you see a lot of people coming from overseas that visit Barbados that would say the same exact thing. I mean, everywhere has sun and sand, but Barbados got really exceptional people, and I think once we start developing our people more, I think we could do really, really well with people in Barbados, and I think that's our treasure. They got enough more Rihannas here, trust me, and they got enough more Mia Motleys coming on the way. It's just now to nurture them and show that Barbados is world class. But our leader's doing it fantastic, you know. So kudos to Prime Minister Mia Motley. I think she's brought us on the map in many other ways as well as people like Rihanna.
Well, we could not agree with you more, Deepu. This marks yet another chapter in the story of the East Indians who made Barbados their home. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. This has been My Community. Do take good care of yourself and look out for the interests of your neighbors.